What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 446 of the Established Run NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Drew Dinkmeyer, and we are 1 week into the NBA playoffs. We've got a lot of 3-1s. We've got a sweep already in the books. We've got a lot of drama. That was probably one of the big trends. Certain challenges for another trend. We'll talk about so substitution patterns. It had everything. Dink, how you doing? How are you enjoying the playoffs?
Enjoying the playoffs. I'm disappointed that we only have 1-2-2 series through 4 games. Maybe Houston can level things in Golden State tonight, but that looks doubtful as well. But I think the basketball's been good. The games have come down to the wire. Some incredible finishes. Denver and the Clippers being the most incredible finish we'll maybe see in our lifetimes from a playoff perspective. And then, Detroit and New York, a lot of drama towards the buzzer as well. Boston and Orlando, those games kind of coming down to the wire of late. Thunder and Grizzlies game came down to the wire in game 4. So it's been good, competitive playoff level basketball. Lakers, Minnesota game came down to the wire. Just disappointed that some of these series that I really thought could be epic series, and maybe we'll still get them. Maybe we'll get comebacks from 3-1 to force interesting game 6s or game 7s. But right now, it looks like we might have more series than I expected, under 6 games in this first round, which, just a little, as a guy who likes playoff basketball, I just want more playoff basketball.
Yeah, interesting for best ball with potentially one long series and a lot of short ones. But yeah, we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, we're just going to kind of recap what we saw, kind of the theme we've been going here, talk about some other stuff that maybe tied things together. I know a lot of people talk about the physicality and fouls. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that. But yeah, let's start with the biggest surprise, the same way we started the last podcast on Monday with the Wolves getting that big game 1 win. And then obviously just an incredible game. Another big fourth quarter again. From the Wolves. That's been a huge trend in this series. Even the game they lost, they had a pretty okay fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter of this series, the Wolves have a plus 42.9 net rating, led by their 82.1 defensive rating. They are absolutely clamping the Lakers. Obviously, the big story from Game 4 was JJ Redick not using a single sub. He did have Gabe Vincent at the table late third, and I thought he was coming in. It didn't pull him back on a timeout there. And then Anthony Edwards was probably the best game of the weekend, not just scoring, but everything there. And then Julius Randle, his defense, we did get the big adjustment. They switched Luka on Randle. Wasn't that efficient? Well, I think it was 25 points on 22 shots. Those were, and then the Wolves won all the edges. Points off turnovers, 19-5. Points in the paint, 48-30. Rebounding edge. They even won the turnover by one turnover. Just a really, really strong game from the Wolves here. How are you feeling? What do you see from the big Wolves Game 4 win?
Yeah, I think, some of the things that I've leaned on in the past in my analysis that I forgot in this series was kind of depth, the ability to play through different chess pieces and moving things around on the board. And Lakers have one lineup. They have one lineup that they're willing to play. That's what we saw in the second half, and that's a problem. It's a problem in terms of how teams know how to defend you. It's a problem in terms of the veteran, you're relying on Dorian Finney-Smith and LeBron James to play into the upper 30s and 40s minutes kind of routinely. And these guys are kind of losing steam towards the end of the games a little bit here. Luka Doncic, I wonder if after the series we'll see more Nico Harrison questioning about conditioning and fatigue in the fourth quarter, because Luka Doncic has not been at his best in the second halves and fourth quarters of this series. And so, the Lakers had a lot of good looks to kind of put this one away. Austin Reeves missed a wide open 3 with like 6 minutes left. Austin Reeves missed a wide open 3 to tie the game at the very end. He was having a hard time kind of putting looks down. Their defense, they have a severe disadvantage in terms of athleticism on the floor compared to the Wolves. And that, coupled with tired legs in the fourth quarter, is manifesting itself in much better looks at the rim for Minnesota in the fourth quarter and much more contested, kind of what you would normally think of as lazier offense in the fourth quarter from the Lakers. And I think it's not necessarily lazy. I think it's more so that guys are just running out of steam entirely. So the Lakers are in this. I mean, down 3-1, they're not out of this series by any means. We've seen Minnesota give away leads and have to come back last year against Denver and finish things off in a game 7. So it's still live with, the next game in LA. You just got to win. You got to hold serve and win one game in Minnesota. So it's still not over for the Lakers. But the the thing that is becoming apparent for some of these very veteran laden teams that don't have depth is how are you going to survive getting through this? And we talked about this with Denver last time. They got a big win in game 4 to even things up. But like, how are teams like Denver and the Lakers that are relying so heavily on 4, 5, 6 guys going to get through this gauntlet of Western Conference teams? That's the bigger concern. Like, you can say, oh, what if the Lakers are still able to come back down 3-1 here? Sure, but like, can they come back from down 3-1 here? Can they then beat the winner of Golden State Houston in a 7-game series and then have enough to still take on OKC or LAC or Denver, whoever gets there? I don't believe it. And so I think in some ways, even though the Lakers, I think, are still live to come back in this series, I think the inability to play with different lineup combinations is making me very have lost all my confidence in them being able to make a deep run in these playoffs.
With that, I mean, we saw, talk about lineup combos. You know, I was watching this game and like, whoa, the Wolves are really big. They had Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, and Mike Conley. I was like, whoa, that's a big lineup. And then they sub out Mike Conley and they put Anthony Edwards in for just like, and they played that 3 big lineup a lot. They played it for 4 minutes. Naz Reid, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert, and that was the plan. They're all right. You want to play this perimeter-based offense? We're going to throw a lot of length at you. We're going to switch with just size. Jaden was not giving up switches, and my favorite thing last night was like him giving up a switch and like wanting to get it back like so bad. That was hilarious to watch. But yeah, Dante DiVincenzo down the stretch was really good again. I mean, you don't really think Dante DiVincenzo is the kind of player who like makes a big impact, but man, he had like a couple huge defensive plays. That backdoor, Ant had Luka in the corner and like he went around him and stole it. That was a huge one. He played really well down the stretch, and yeah, just like you're saying, you know, you got 18 minutes out of your basically, you know, 7th, 8th, and 9th guy, and you know the other team has, you know, Naz Reid at 20, Dante DiVincenzo at 29, like off the bench, and they just had ways to beat them. And like you're saying, that the Lakers are out of moves, and their move, like I said, their move was, all right, let's put LeBron on Jaden and Julius on getting Luka on Julius, and it like kind of worked. Like Julius Randle was pretty inefficient, taking 22 shots. They tried to make Julius Randle be like the kind of hero ball that he loves, and I thought that was a good adjustment, and I think they'll do it again. But they got nothing else, man. Like Jackson Hayes is done. I don't think Jackson Hayes sees the floor again. I think they got to find ways to get Jared Vanderbilt on the court, just to take some minutes off, whether it's just him, because they're playing so damn big, and just like, all right, you know, put Vando in for Luka, and then sub out LeBron for you know, just basically like alternate substitutions and run like a 6 or 7 man or something. But yeah, it's clear that just Jackson Hayes is just got no use on this team overall. But I did want to pivot to Ant. I thought Ant was freaking really, really, really good. Obviously the shot making, but you know, some of his best plays weren't even like, you know, scoring. That, you know, when he drives the paint, dishes to Nas hits Jaden Dunker for a bucket, that for the and one. That was one of the biggest buckets of the game. I thought he read that really well. And this comes on, you know, not far along, you know, game 2. He's like, oh, I didn't even know what kind of defense. It was quote unquote kind of his own. They were doing the same stuff, and he like really, really solved it. So I thought Anthony Edwards, like I said, was probably the best game of the weekend. Not even the 43. Just the composure, guarding LeBron, guarding Luka on switches. He just dominated the game in a two-way fashion that like few people in the NBA can. So did just want to shout out Ant. I mentioned Jaden, mentioned Julius. Yeah, Dante, and then Naz Reid. You know, Naz Reid, huge trail 3. That was another huge shot in this game there. But yeah, like you were saying too, Austin Reeves had chances to make big shots, didn't make them, and the Wolves did for another really, really big comeback, 32-19 in the 4th. But yeah, anything else you want to mention on either side? Yeah.
Just wanted to mention, you talked about Anthony Edwards in terms of how impressive he's been. I think the biggest thing to me is just 1.5 turnovers per game, just 6 turnovers in the first 4 games. After like his opening possession in the playoffs, basically when getting thrown a double at was a launched ball into the stand. Since then, he's been like super, super clean with the ball, and that's a big part of why, you know, Minnesota, they're going to probably dominate the boards with the size that they have. If they're not turning the ball over, then they're going to get a lot better possessions. And then really what it comes down to is how much can the Lakers live at the free throw line. And they have not been able to get Jaden McDaniels into severe foul trouble yet, which I think is the big thing that's really important for the Wolves, because all these different lineup combinations, they really work with Jaden McDaniels. They start to not work when you get Jaden McDaniels off the floor. So his ability to stay out on the floor out of foul trouble so far through these first 4 games, I think is also very, very important to them. But yeah, just generally, like their size allows them to control the boards. I think the Lakers need some more size in there. It's not working with Hayes, so I'd like to see it with Vanderbilt a little bit if they're going to spread these minutes out. And I think they got to spread them out a little bit more than what they've done. They'll get a couple days off here. They'll be back home, so hopefully that will help things. But if you're looking at like we got to win 3 in a row, like I don't know if you can do that playing, LeBron and Luka 44 a night. Like I don't know if they will have enough in the tank to get to a game 7 type situation here. And so that's my concern from the Lakers standpoint. I think the low turnover rate for the Wolves as a whole has been pretty strong in this one. Outside of Rudy Gobert, I think everybody's playing pretty well. Rudy was at least impactful on the offensive boards in this one, but still overall has been, lacking in terms of impact in this series. Naz Reid's had some foul trouble issues, but when he's been on the floor, he's been very impactful. They're shooting the ball well, 38% from 3 on the series without the only guy who's not really shooting the ball well is Dante DiVincenzo and then Conley a little bit. You saw Nickeil Alexander-Walker get de-emphasized a bunch. I think that makes all the sense in the world. That's one of the things we talked about kind of coming into this series. So getting bigger, more shot making out there. And while Julius Randle had an inefficient game, he had a lot of wide open threes that he just missed. So like, I don't know how much that adjustment worked versus like bad shooting variance from Julius. I thought he was still playing like fairly in control offensively. He made like one kind of hero ball drive in the fourth quarter that was a little bit shaky. But other than that, I thought he was taking shots kind of in rhythm that were open threes. I thought Minnesota correctly realized like, okay, if Luka's going to be on Randall, we still got to play through Ant and have Ant on the ball, not Randall trying to attack Luka. I think, meanwhile, on the other side, Luka's hunting Gobert a little bit too much in fourth quarter situations and like trying to find those out. I don't think those are their best ways to score, and especially in the fourth quarter when he's a little bit gassed. And so I think if you're a Wolves fan, like you got to be feeling really great about how they've shown up, how they've played. They've played with strong intensity. They've played with great control of their emotions, which is also like really impressive in a series against the Lakers, who are going to get their fair share of foul calls because the Lakers just continuously force contact. I thought Minnesota's just really held up in a way that I did not expect. And more than anything, like I got the series entirely wrong with my analysis kind of coming in. I thought that the Lakers, their positional size would give Minnesota problems with Minnesota's biggest advantage, which is their size. And it has given no problems to Minnesota whatsoever, in large part because Jaden McDaniels has been able to stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the ball movement, man, like their whole offense is just matchup hunting. And it's just as great as Luka is, as great as LeBron is, not that, you're not going to get like a wide open dunk when on like most isolation possessions. And like the Wolves had a lot of, and like, I don't know. And like they're staying home. They just got so much length to close out and have enough protection behind it. So yeah, it's a big disadvantage. They're going to need like a really nuclear game from somebody here. But definitely feel like the Wolves have the edge, probably thinking Wolves in 6 at this point. I think the Lakers will probably get it at home. But like we were saying, even the last podcast we did, the Wolves, besides that bad first quarter, like they held their own. They've only had like really one bad quarter. I think that they've won. It's not like a wide like quarter edge. I think it's like like 10-6 or something along those lines. But yeah, I think the Wolves probably get this in 6. They're just, and then we could talk about after that if you want to make a pick. Like, are they live to like make a run again? Kind of feels like they are.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I mean, one of the advantages that they have is, their depth allows them to play different ways in the postseason, also allows them to withstand some injuries. They're also an extremely durable team. We talked about this going into the regular season, that they just have a lot of guys that just don't miss games. Like Anthony Edwards doesn't miss games. Julius Randle generally doesn't miss games. Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, those guys don't miss games. They have the ability to wear down some of these older teams as the playoffs go on. I think that's definitely something that makes them live. They also have, an incredible performer in Anthony Edwards who can elevate his game in the playoffs and has shown the ability to do that these last 2 years. So very live to make a run here. I do think, if they are able to get past the Lakers, I think Golden State is a particularly challenging matchup for them. But, if that's who they end up playing, but we will see. The Wolves are very, they made this calculated Karl Anthony Towns trade, which was to make them a little bit worse short term, but free up the salary situation long term. And looks like it's going to work out okay. Like it looks like they, aren't really losing much in terms of their ability to make deep playoff runs this year, and then eventually they'll get a little bit more salary flexibility to kind of work things out. But a lot of that is the growth of Jalen McDaniels, who's just been really, really good in this series, and in a series that I thought would be tough for him. Like I really thought like there would be a lot of pressure on him to stay in games and stay out of foul trouble, and he has been able to do that swimmingly. So I'm with you. I think Minnesota probably closes this out at home in 6, which, by the way, the Minnesota crowds have been phenomenal. Like you can feel the energy through the television, which is one of my favorite things about big, meaningful playoff games. They've been awesome, and I would think that that's probably where we're heading. Wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers are able to force this out. Like any result at this point wouldn't be shocking to me. The shocking thing for me would be if the Lakers are able to come from all the way behind here and then kind of muster up enough to do it again. Like I think there's cumulative wear and tear in these playoff series, and I think the Lakers are enduring a lot of that right now.
Yeah, shout out Sam Walzak from the data team. He was at the game. Big Wolves fan. I'm being in Phoenix. No fun playoff games for me to go to. We have to go to LA if the Clippers can advance, which is a good segue. Let's talk about no doubt the best game of the weekend. What a freaking comeback from the Clippers, and all for naught as buzzer-beating dunk. As the ESPN stats and info team noted, the first buzzer-beater dunk since they've tracked it. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat the buzzer when you're at the basket there. Truly remarkable. I mean, did you think it went? Did you think it went in? I didn't know. I was like, this is like as close as it gets.
I still don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Would you? I just like if they ruled it the other way, would they have ruled it the other way? Because the call.
I think so. I think so, but I really don't know. I still don't know. There wasn't a freeze frame that I saw that slowed it down enough to show exactly where the ball is in his fingertips and when the red light goes on. So I still don't know. And yeah, I mean, incredible game. I don't even know where to start other than the idea that the Nuggets, their 5 starters played 42 minutes or more in this one. So similar vibes to the Lakers in terms of just like relying on basically one lineup to kind of get you through. Jokic was incredible. Just like one of Jokic has had many playoff masterpieces. There's the game many years ago against Portland where him and Dame were just going off against each other. And this one was one of the best when you consider the strength of the competition from a defensive standpoint in terms of teams that could kind of match up with him defensively. And you had Zubac shaking his head multiple times when Jokic was making big shots down the stretch. 14 for 25, 5 for 6 from the line, 36 points on 25 shots, add in 21 rebounds, 8 assists. I mean, he was the best player in the world in this game, and it's the only reason that Denver had a chance. Michael Porter Jr. deserves incredible shout-outs for playing through this very, very difficult shoulder injury and playing very effectively. 17 points, 4 for 7 from 3. He was great in his time on the floor. And then you saw this big comeback from the Clippers in the fourth quarter to get it close in a game that felt like, man, why can't they put together runs? But they couldn't put together runs because they were taking the ball out of the basket because Jokic was so efficient kind of offensively. And this has kind of been the Denver motto, which is we're not going to get a ton of possessions, but we're going to be really efficient in them. And you're going to look at the score at the end of the game and you'll be like, how was their offense that good when they only scored 100 or whatever? But this is what they did during their championship run as well. So incredible championship DNA and strength to get back home. They're still big underdogs in the betting markets. I think they're still plus 130, plus 140 to win this series, despite having 2 of the final 3 games potentially at home. So the market is very skeptical of the Nuggets being able to withstand the Clippers here, but they are giving themselves shots. And when you have the best player in the world, it's very clear that you're live.
Yeah, just I thought there were 2 headlines. Besides the shot at the end, there's no takeaway from that. Great shot. The first one was MPJ. I thought that was a big takeaway. The fact that he was able to play that many amount of minutes and make an impact. I didn't see it because the broadcast didn't really, but David Adelman said that he was like grimacing every time he was putting the ball up because that shoulder injury was so bad. So yeah, him to play through that and hit big shots and make an impact and not look like a complete hole on defense, I thought that was one of the biggest takeaways for me. We'll see if he can do that on a nightly basis. Certainly a player that is not consistent. We'll see if that can kind of hold up and if he could do it again. And then the other one was the zone that the Clippers used down the stretch to get back in the game. They ran like a 1-3-1 kind of zone. Ty Lue said they kind of like basically said like they kept that in their back pocket and they used it. And like now the Nuggets know it's coming. So I'm curious to see how the Nuggets respond to that. If that's something that will be used a lot or a little, or how prepared they're going to be overall. And then I don't think there's a takeaway from Joker. Like Joker's great, but but yeah, I'm curious to see how the Nuggets respond to the zone. If the Clippers use it a little bit more, if MPJ could stay healthy again, if Aaron Gordon could hold it together. He's still hurting. His calf injury is an issue. Jamal Murray was not very good this game. Been a pretty tough series for him. And then yeah, as you said, the depth is not there for them, and they got Batum a couple games ago. Bogdan really kept him in this game with a couple big shots. Thought his defense was fine. Ben Simmons was actually like okay, had a big defensive game as well. Yeah, they've got a little bit more depth. So I'm still kind of leaning that the Clippers kind of got this. I'm basically where the market is. I think like, that's pretty fair pricing. But yeah, I can't. This series is so good, and I still can't believe this game was on NBA TV last week. Yeah, I still kind of lean Clippers in 6. I think that they'll go out there and get a win in Denver. But certainly not putting any money on it anymore.
Yeah, I was looking to try to bet Clippers series stuff, thinking it might be around even money with the Nuggets having home court, and it wasn't. So I just laid off. I've got all my Clippers series and Clippers -1.5 stuff that I'll still hope to cash. That is my last remaining hope, really, of the first round, on a first round that I've largely whiffed on from a betting perspective. It's been frustrating. But yeah, I thought Bogdan playing in the zone allowed him to not be hunted. Like in the zone defense, it's hard to hunt an individual defender a little bit more. Zone defenses are hard to execute against Denver just because generally the way to beat zones is get the ball in the middle and have a distributor that can work from there. And Jokic is the best in the world at that. So now that he knows it's coming, I don't know how effective that'll be. I'm sure they'll continue to try to match up stuff. There's a piece in the Ringer about Jokic and the genius of him that was released last week by, I think it was Michael Pena, who wrote it. It was really, really good and goes into a lot of the different ways that Jokic has like this photographic memory for plays, for play types, and for plays that are run from years ago that he'll recognize and sniff out like, oh, they ran this when Terry Stotts was in Portland, or they ran this when they called it this. And so I have confidence that he'll be able to sniff it out. I have confidence that Denver's offense will be able to produce enough just because of him. I still have question marks on the defensive side of things. They got kind of a positive shooting variance game here in terms of, both teams didn't shoot the ball well, but you expect the Clippers to shoot the ball better from 3 than the Nuggets just overall. And the Clippers were just 33% from 3. The Nuggets were 34.5% here. Norm Powell did find his stroke in this one, 4 for 8 from 3. I thought that was a really good development for the Clippers in terms of their hopes here. It's a little bit of an off game for James Harden in terms of his aggressiveness. The Nuggets defense really sold out to basically say, like, we're leaving Kriston wide open. Kriston, take as many shots as you'd like. And Kriston struggled, 1 for 9 overall, 1 for 6 from 3. Nick Batum struggled in this one, 1 for 6 from 3. He's a better shooter than that. I think there's just more outs for the Clippers, but we're getting deeper and deeper in the series. And the deeper you get into the series, the more you give Jokic the ability to process all the different ways you're going to try to defend him. And the more I have concerns on, is your defense going to be good enough? So I think the offense has to really show up for the Clippers, because I think one of the things that you'll see is as the series goes on, I think you'll see Jokic's turnover rate go down and down on things that they've tried. And I think the Clippers, need some of the turnovers to get some of the easy stuff. So I think the market is probably underrating Denver a little bit here, but I'm not betting it. I'm hopeful that the Clippers, can take care of things in Game 5 and then come home to another crowd that's been great. The Clippers arena crowd has been great. I know Winky went to Game 4 and had a blast. But this series is awesome. It's great. These two teams are teams that most playoff years would advance to the second round. Like most playoff years, these two teams would be among the final 8 left, and oftentimes, honestly, among the final 4 left. They're very, very good.
Yeah, shout out Winky for going to that game. Dank went to a Nuggets game. We talked about I'm like living vicariously through those guys, but like I mean I gotta take a weekend and go to a playoff game, man. I'm really missing it. But yeah, so it sounds like we're both kind of thinking Clippers in 6 at this point, or do you think it?
I think so, but
Yeah,
there's a part of me that feels like, man, I keep
yeah,
underrating Jokic, and I don't like being the guy that's underrating Jokic, but I do think there's just like it's a thin margin that Denver's operating on right now, having to play these guys 42 to 44 minutes, having MPJ have a shoulder issue that seems like it's like one hit away from like being a real big issue. I think all of that is very risky, and if something happens, like I think they in some ways benefited from Russ not being there,
yeah.
but they need his depth. So we'll see if he's able to come back in that one. And you mentioned all the playoff games. Knicks playoff games look very exciting, but I
Yeah.
literally have not been outside in 2 weeks. So shout out to NBA playoffs and hashtag dad life hitting at the same time. So
Yep.
I don't have any hopes of actually getting to a game,
Yeah,
sadly.
it was great. It was great to have you around for most of the season, but definitely missing it this time. All right, so let's move on to the last interesting Western Conference series, and it is interesting, and it's interesting for weird ways. And I don't know, man. I am in the camp of like people who like know the NBA a little bit. I always think like playoff experience is a little overrated. Well, I don't know about that now. The Rockets really blew this one. I mean, my God, like the sloppy turnovers and the free throws, the missed shots at the basket. I don't know what the hell happened there. Alfred Şengün was 1 of 10 inside of 8 feet. They shot 14 to 24 from the line, and it wasn't even the Hackam Adams stuff. Adams was 4-6, so the rest of the team pulled them down from the Adams stuff there. Amen Thompson missing everything around the basket again. He did not have good defense against Steph Curry. We'll talk about if that sticks and what they do there. The Rockets offense has to do something. They've got to get more 3-pointers. They've got to get better spacing. They've got to play Jabari Smith Jr. more, which we could talk about now or later. Jalen Green really airball, but just missing. So the Warriors were like funneling them into the little floater range, and they kept missing it. And they had like they shot the ball well, but you got 28 3-pointers up in the year 2025. It's just not going to work. That's not going to work. It's not. They mostly took care of the ball. Amon had some bad
Yeah,
ones again.
yeah,
The Thompson boys kind of
yeah.
screwed up, but yeah, the big question is like we'll talk about Jimmy in a second, but I just want to start with the Rockets' offense, just airballing and just missing. My God, there's so many easy shots here. What do you think about and how can the Rockets get their offense on track?
I think it's difficult for the Rockets because one of the big things that they really relied upon in the regular season was their ability to turn teams over and get out and run and have these athletes in Amen Thompson and Tari Eason and Jabari Smith and whatnot, just in Jalen Green, get down the floor and just beat teams in transition. That just isn't really accessible in the playoffs. That when the Warriors are vulnerable, it is when they're turning the ball over a lot, but just 10 turnovers in this game. They've generally protected the ball pretty well in this series, and that really cuts out a big portion. So then the next big portion is dominating on the offensive boards and the putbacks. And this is where I think Quentin Post was exceptional in this game for Golden State. And I think probably earned himself even more playing time, even when Jimmy potentially returns here, because he did such a great job protecting the boards. 12 boards in his 27 minutes, just in general, made things tough on both Adams and Şengün in terms of getting offensive rebounding opportunities. And so then from there, it's like, okay, now we're going to make you play. We're going to take away a little bit of the putback stuff. We're going to take away a lot of the in-transition stuff. We're going to make you play in the half court. Houston shot almost 40% from three in this game. They shot the ball decently enough from three. The problem is they're not getting enough threes because they are getting funneled into the middle. And getting funneled into the middle, now that you have some shot blocking and contesting and offensive or protection on the defensive boards with Quentin Post, was like a problem for them. It's interesting because Jalen Green had such a great game against Quentin Post in the game two, kind of attacking him, but just Quentin Post really held his own in this one. So I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he was like a really underrated key member of the game three win here. And then the other thing I want to talk about,
defense on Amen was huge, man. That like kind of changed the game for them.
Yeah, and I mean, Amen 5 for 16, get as many floaters as you want, but like you got to make some. And it's interesting. I was looking at Amen's shot distribution, this morning as I was working on some of the projection stuff, and so far in the playoffs, Amen's gone from having in the regular season 42% of his field goal attempts overall are in that 0 to 3 feet range. In the postseason, 22%. So half of his shot attempts from basically dunks and layups are taken off the board.
Yep.
Where are those shots going? from 3 to 10 feet, he's gone from 30% to 44%. And from 10 to 16 feet, he's gone from 9.5% to 25%. So he's getting funneled into that mid range, which that he is not, that's not his spot yet. If he gets that, it's over. If he gets that, it's over. Because if he can work from the mid range consistently, it's over. But right now, they're keeping him away from the rim, and that's really kind of impacting things. And the other thing I want to note is, I think we've lost the NBA playoff era a bit in the last, probably since LeBron went to Miami. Like the years before that, you had the way teams were built before these big threes and different things. The way teams were built, you had an era, like a 20 to 30 year period, where like the best players in the world could win playoff games by themselves. And you sort of expected that to be the case. It's like, okay, how is LeBron with, Zydrunas Ilgauskas or Anderson Varejao, and like all these secondary pieces, how are they going to beat the Celtics, who have like a better team? And then LeBron would just like lift the team on his back. And I thought this weekend we got a little bit of a throwback to that, both with Jokic, who we just talked about in Game 4, just kind of carrying the Nuggets offense on his back, and with Steph Curry in this one. Because, I mean, literally in the first half, the Warriors did not score a point when Steph Curry was not on the floor. And then in the second half, he ends up putting the game away with a bunch of possessions in the fourth quarter where he's like, just give me the ball and let me go to work. And it was everywhere. It was mid-range. It was at the rim. It was three-point line. The release that he had on Jalen Green, where Jalen Green basically like slapped hands with him, and it didn't matter. Like Steph was just wet from everywhere. So, I mean, the offensive performance from Stephen Curry in this one was their whole offense. He had 36 points and 9 assists. They scored 104 points in total. So, I mean, he was responsible for more than half of their offense in its entirety. And that doesn't even count the gravity that he's sucking away that's allowing other things to happen kind of away from the ball and whatnot. So Steph was just incredible. And to see him do that, to see LeBron, I thought LeBron in Game 3 was exceptional. To see these guys, LeBron at age 40, Steph at age 37, it's just incredible to me that we're here, that we're seeing that level of like dominance and putting things ahead. So Steph was just incredible and deserves all the flowers in the world for being one of the greatest ever to do it.
Yeah, they took Amen off him. Amen, the guy who were like, oh, he's the best guy to guard stud. They took him off him, and they were putting Fred VanVleet on him. He just cracked the Amen code, and he was too good. The ball handling world was insane. The Steph bread and butter pick and roll stuff was working that we saw like in like the heyday when they would dial it back early and then go to it like crazy when they need it. That was huge. And then the other adjustment too was Buddy Hield. Obviously Steph the hero, but no doubt I thought Buddy Hield was the biggest impact, keeping him kind of like one pass away when they were doubling Steph. That was a really sharp adjustment by Steve Kerr. I thought he was really good. Gary, we talked about Jalen Green. Gary Payton was really good.
Yeah, he was
Jalen
great.
Green.
Yeah.
And he's earned more minutes. I think he's going to probably play a pretty good bit. Curious to see how much he does play. But he was fantastic. And they let him, they had a couple really nice like ATOs where they just had him get the ball and go right down the lane because they were just shading so much coverage to Steph off the initial action. So I thought that was really good. Moses Moody was not good. It's not a good Moses Moody series. Curious to see how that kind of shakes out overall. And then I think we covered post. Certainly Draymond Green getting open look after open look. All his threes are like wide open. I was writing about it in matchups. Literally all of them are open. He's been pretty good though defensively. Obviously had some pretty big defensive plays overall there. But let's talk Jimmy to wrap it up, I guess. There's actually a lot to talk about still. Let's just talk about Jimmy real quick, just to kind of run through here. The Warriors people are like pretty encouraged, which is the same thing that happened in Game 3. But like the Shams Charania stuff is like not encouraging. The report he had that he was like not mobile enough to play basketball, and he like literally cannot move. Sham was saying. So I'm a little more concerned than the Warriors people are. So curious to see how that happens there. And then the other just to kind of starting lineups here. Like Amen's been pretty bad, as great as he was all season. Like they need shooting, they need a little bit more space on their offense. Amen ain't it? Like we talked about Jabari. Like, do they go back to pre-Jabari injury and like get Jabari for Amen? I think that's on the table. And then, like you said, do they just start quitting post for Moses Moody? I think that's kind of the big questions here. It's pretty crazy that there's a 2-game slate today, and like Miami. We'll talk about Miami in a second. Like
Yeah.
there's like starting lineup questions on all the teams, but with Garland's questionable. But yeah, how do you think these teams start out for Game 4 tonight?
Yeah, I think Post has earned continuing to start, and I think you just slide in Jimmy over Kaminga, and if he's available, and I think
Yep.
that's the starting lineup. If Jimmy's not available, I think they'd give Kaminga another shot to see if he could start out hot, but then quick hook again if he's not out there able to secure his own bag. And then on the Houston side of things, I don't think there's going to be any changes to their starting lineup there. I think it's just more of like, do we continue to see this insistence on the Adams Şengün overlap?
That got cut down. That was 11 minutes, 10 minutes, and 3 minutes in Game 3.
I know, but it's got to be 0. Like I just don't. I don't think it makes any sense. What was their net rating in those 3 minutes?
It was actually okay. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah. I just don't think I don't think it works for them. So I'm still in the camp that Jabari Smith, both from an offensive and a defensive perspective, is the player that they need to emphasize a bit more in this one. I know Tari Eason had the really good game too. He kind of made his threes. It's not something you can really bank on quite as much. He was 1 of 5 in this one, but Jabari, I feel like you can bank on his shooting a little bit more. He spaces the floor. He's doing a lot of good face guarding on Steph. His length can be a little bit of a challenge for Steph. It's another look. You can handle switches a little bit better. You have rim protection if you want to play him kind of down low in a dunker spot defensively type spot. So I feel like Jabari's got to play more. Yeah. I think that has to come ultimately. I think that has to come at the expense of Amen. If Amen is not impacting the game defensively in the way that we expected him to impact the game defensively. So I think they'll give Amen another crack to start on Steph, but if it's not working, I could see Amen get a cut down for Jabari in this one.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you see Steph getting early, it's going to probably be a pretty light night for Amen and then big for Jabari, so potentially a live spot there. But I do think there's a chance that they flip that. That's where they were before, and it was working great all season. Like, it's not. So with that it was working. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had the right read on Jimmy missing on Saturday. I thought the Rockets should have had this game. They were up 13-12 before that big 8-0 run or whatever it was to close out second quarter. Another big fourth quarter. The Wolves are the best fourth quarter team, but the Warriors aren't far behind. So it's almost feeling like, I don't know, man. Like there's just big missed opportunities from the Rockets here. I'm feeling pretty bad. I almost feel like it's going to be Warriors in 5 at this point. I've pretty bad vibes. Maybe I guess my official pick would be Warriors in 6 at this point, but it's pretty bad.
That's where I'd go as well. And I mean, it's still 2-1. The Rockets have had a chance to win all 3 of these games, honestly. So I mean, if you're a Rockets supporter, you're like, okay, if we can steal 1 in Golden State, we're right back to where we need to be with a best of 3 with 2 games at home. And I think that's not unreasonable. But if they get Jimmy back, we'll have to see how Jimmy is. If Jimmy looks like the Jimmy we saw as post trade and fully healthy, I think it's going to be a really tough road to hoe for Houston. But I also think that this game for Golden State in terms of Game 3 was a game that they lived off of a lot of really, really strong contributions from these role players and the narrative on role players at home. But Buddy Hield, Gary Payton, and Quinn Post were all exceptional in this one. And I think they kind of need that, along with Steph being exceptional, to win a fourth quarter that they were tied going into or down 2 going into. So I still feel like Houston has a puncher's chance. I still think they're live, but obviously the playoff experience is starting to feel like it's an overwhelming gap for them.
Yep. We are not going to talk about OKC today. We don't need to. It was an easy sweep there. Big position for me. I needed that one with the way some of my other takes are going, which we could start with my position that's not looking good. The Detroit Pistons, they blew it. We talked. We didn't talk about how Chris Finch had that challenge in his pocket when they called the foul on LeBron. That was huge for this game. And JB Bickerstaff burned his challenge early because Cade kind of wanted him to for an irrelevant, I guess you could say, out of bounds call where he could have had that challenge on the last play of the game. Josh Hart got fouled. David Guthrie says after the game, it was a foul. Tough pill to swallow right there. But we talk about that. But I mean, I thought had that not happened and Guthrie not said that, the headline was like, my God, the shot making. Cat had the craziest shot of the postseason over the freaking backboard, followed by a deep contested 3 and then another 3. The Knicks 3-point shooting 5 of 6 in the fourth quarter. Nothing easy. Jalen Brunson, well, it wasn't actually, a lot of it was easy. Like, he had so many chances to just get wherever he wanted there. That was a big issue there. But yeah, we talked about role players, not for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, Cat bringing him home with just incredible shot making, massive win there. So yeah, anything on the fouls, I don't have much to say, but just how impressed with you with Jalen Brunson again doing it in the fourth quarter, and this time Cat getting funneled the ball way more and coming up huge.
Yeah, Thompson boys continue to have a hard go at it this postseason. Jalen has, nobody on Detroit has slowed Jalen down in any way, shape, or form outside of some poor shooting in game one, which he recorrected in the second half. Since that second half, he's been lights out shooting in this series. It's hard to even fathom how, when you look at like some of the numbers in the box score, how Detroit was even in this game.
Yeah,
they shot 7 for 29 from three. The Knicks shot 15 for 33 from three. They turned the ball over 17 times in this game. That combination, shooting 24% when your opponent shoots 45%, and you turn the ball over 7 more times than your opponent, and then you get one less free throw than your opponent. Like, how are you even in that game? And it's basically that they were just dominant on the boards. And so, 54 to 38 rebounding advantage for Detroit here, which was largely built on Jalen Duren, who was exceptional in this game on the boards. 6 offensive rebounds, 11 defensive rebounds, 17 in total. I thought he played very, very well to stay out of foul trouble as well. It was a game where a lot of contact was being let go. Like, it was a very, very physical game on both ends. And outside of Tobias and Cat getting in a little bit of foul trouble, everybody else was not in foul trouble for a game that was played very, very aggressively. But yeah, if you're Detroit, you're sitting here, you're down 3-1, and you're like, we could easily be up 3-1 in this series. The game one blow the big lead in the fourth quarter, and then game four here, exceptional shot making from Cat and Brunson down the stretch to kind of take it off. So just awful loss for Detroit. Got to feel like you're walking into a funeral in game 5 in New York. I mean, if you can pull it off, you have a shot. But it feels unlikely for sure, and unfortunate, because I think the strongest position that we both had in this opening round was over 5.5 games in this opening series. And I mean, that was the chance right there, is like, get the foul call, make 2 free throws out of 3, and take it home. But no dice.
Yeah, I was upset with that. I don't get tilted very much, and when I do, my dog like walks up to me because he knows I'm sad. And he's like, "Hey, sure, Mike, it's be okay." He was doing that after the Pistons lost, but they're so shorthanded, man. They have like 3 power forward centers, and they really felt it with the way Cat can kind of take over a game. But they got like Tobias bounced back kind of big time, missed some open shots. Jalen Duren was so good in this game. Jalen Duren has taken a huge step forward. Cade was magnificent. But yeah, missed threes. It's just like the classic, you got to make your shots. You got to take care of the ball. So I don't really think there's much to take away from. I think that Detroit's going to keep doing what they're doing. We'll see if Isaiah Stewart could come back. They played double big for a minute with Tobias picked up foul trouble. They played Paul Reed and Jalen Duren together just to kind of like to put something in front of Cat, because we saw a couple games ago they were putting Malik Beasley on Cat when they were in a bit of a pickle. So yeah, that's something to note there. But I don't think there's any adjustments. It's just a matter of like Detroit shooting the ball better, taking care of it. And the Knicks came out freaking hot. It looked like it was going to be a blowout, but incredible comeback from the Pistons to get back in this game. So, yeah, like you said, it feels like that this is, like I'm kind of hinting at, someone who's got Detroit stuff. Like, that was their chance again, and they're probably not getting another one. So this might even be a blowout, honestly. It feels pretty bad for Detroit. We're curious to see if they can even respond and play well enough to like hang around.
I think they have some advantages that will prevent it from being a blowout, but we'll see. It'll be a very fierce crowd at MSG, so it's a good test for a young Detroit team. It's more about what kind of intensity do they come out with. I think if they come out with the right intensity, I don't think they get blown out. I think it's just if they're beaten up after that loss, which understandably so, and they come out with the wrong mindset, I think they're vulnerable.
Yep. Speaking of sad news, the saddest news so far of the playoffs, Damian Lillard feared to have suffered an Achilles tear, almost certainly has, based on the comments of Doc. Chris Haynes is literally as legit as it gets on Damian Lillard stuff. So, yeah, man, like, this series is over. Like, I don't think we need to even debate that. But I don't know. Like, the biggest question to me from the Bucks stuff, like, what happens now? Like, this Kuzma thing's a disaster. they've got Giannis set up. They've got nothing else really on the team here. Like after I digested the Damian Lillard short term, I was like, man, is Giannis going to ask for a trade at this point? Like, this is really
I think
bad.
so.
So just to kind of, where the Bucks go as a franchise, and I don't even really want to talk about Damian Lillard's long term career. Obviously, the Kobe thing is comparison given his age, but
Yeah,
it's tough. But yeah, where do the Bucks go from here? This feels like doomsday.
it does. And they just gave the GM a contract extension, so he's going to feel secure in doing whatever he feels is right for the direction of the franchise. I think Giannis will probably ask for a trade after. I mean, this series he's been exceptional this series, and they're not even close. And they just don't have enough. They don't have enough ways to add talent around him. So if Giannis is in control of where he gets to go, that's going to limit the number of suitors that Milwaukee could potentially be interested in. I think the places that would go from a basketball perspective in terms of like making trades on a video game and whatnot are places that Giannis probably isn't going to want to go. So I think of New Orleans immediately, like, oh, you can do some Zion stuff with Giannis and kind of split things out that way, get control of your own picks back. But I don't think Giannis is going to be interested in going to New Orleans. So, maybe he'll be interested in Brooklyn because it's, Manhattan adjacent. Maybe he'll be interested in Miami. Maybe you can get into some Bam Adebayo type stuff there. Maybe bring Tyler Hero back home. But I think it's going to be a long process to rebuild this thing based on what we've seen from Milwaukee's front office and their ability to draft. Right? Like one of the things that Houston, we thought it was going to be a long process for Houston turning things over when they made the James Harden trade. They nailed the draft, right? Like they get Şengün in the middle of the draft. They get Amen Thompson when they're picking up high. They've nailed it in terms of drafting. Jabari and Tari have been useful pieces that they've added in as well. Milwaukee hasn't really added in anybody that's been a useful rotation piece in quite some time. So not a lot of confidence in the future of the Milwaukee Bucks at this point.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel really bad for you, Giannis. I don't really have much else to say. We'll probably cross that bridge sooner than later. I think it's going to be a developing story for sure. But do want to show some love to the Pacers. I mean, just absolute
They've been awesome.
domination. Yeah, I mean, they are just every time the freaking Bucks miss a shot, they are just down the floor already scoring on the other end. Their pace has been great. It's not even like people always talk about the Pacers playing so fast. It's not even that. Their just ball movement is so good. How many shots were just like one guy shooting three with like half the court on his own? The Bucks couldn't keep up with all the passing and the ball movement. Rick Carlisle had an interesting stat. He said the game they lost in game 3, he's like, that was the second highest isolation possession we had in a game all year. And they made it a point to get rid of that. And they did. The ball movement was so good, so sharp, and just the insane amount of quality looks they got is very, very good. So yeah, they're going to win it probably like in 5. I don't know what the spread is, but it's got to be big. But the Pacers look like they're going to win this in 5. And do they have a chance to beat the Cavs at this point? Where are you at with the prospects of Pacers?
I think we have to just give credit to the Pacers now. Last year they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They get there in a way that is taking advantage of a Knicks team that was very beaten up by injuries, but they got there. And I think what we've seen from them is consistent playoff elevation from Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith. And then Tyrese Halliburton has looked exactly like himself in the regular season and the postseason. So you're getting two players that are looking like they're very, very comfortable in the postseason. And then you're getting your star player, and Siakam's been good too in this series, playing at their level of the regular season, which is hard to maintain. So this team is deep. They play fast. They share the ball. It's a more difficult style to kind of deal with in the postseason because I think you're used to slow down, focus in on one player. They're going to keep putting you in so many actions and so much movement that it's their 4th or 5th option in a play that's wearing you down and getting an open shot. And they just have floor spacing and shooting on the floor at all times. So they're going to be viable to hang up a number on you. It's can they defend enough? I think they're positioned well to give the Cavs some challenges there in terms of the guard defense that they have with Nembhard and with Aaron Nesmith and their ability. The challenge is the Cavs can hunt, and Tyrese is going to have a hard time kind of not getting hunted. When Obi Toppin's out there, if he is out there, he's going to have a hard time not getting hunted. So I think they have a chance to make a deep and extensive series. But I think all signs we've seen from Cleveland this year is that they are a juggernaut. They are a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to a series preview there once it's official. But I do want to give credit to Indiana as like, I think last year we kind of gave through their run without Giannis, and then the Knicks like kind of losing a bunch of players. It was like, oh, like Indiana's kind of just here at the end, and then they get swept in a very competitive series against Boston. And I think it's ultimately like we got to give credit to the Pacers. There's a couple of playoffs in a row where they've played above expectations of their role players.
Yeah, and just to hammer home my point about pace, the Pacers are playing 87% of their possessions in half court. That's the highest in the playoffs. Like they're just like getting to their actions and just like crushing it in the half court like so well. 112 offensive rating in the half court. Only the Cavs are better. Good God, the Cavs offense. We'll talk about them in a second. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that they close them out. So let's just kind of wrap up here and talk about the Celtics and Magic. Great effort from the Magic in Game 3 to get a win, but Celtics too good down the stretch. There's some health concerns. Jaylen Brown picking up another injury with an index finger injury. Says he's fine. But yeah, dude, I mean, this feels like a lock that the Celtics close us out in 5 here. Any thoughts from where the Celtics are? How had they like met your expectations? We talked about them, possibly dropping one, but how do you feel about where the Celtics are right now going into Game 5?
I feel they're a little bit overvalued by the market, just generally is where I think, I don't like some of the comments that they've had about like kind of the physicality of Orlando that's frustrated them. I don't like where their health is, right? Like Tatum being a little bit banged up, Jaylen Brown being on the injury report constantly, Drew missing a couple of games with this hamstring stuff. We talked about how the grind of last offseason with all these guys playing in the Olympics, Drew and Derek White and Jason Tatum, and how that would potentially impact them. And I'm just wondering if it's like starting to add up a little bit. And Cleveland looks a little bit fresher right now. So I'm a little bit concerned on that front. I think Boston, when fully healthy, is still a slight level ahead of Cleveland, but I'm concerned that they might not be fully healthy. So I kind of think that that's more of a toss-up series if we get there. And I think the market's going to have Boston very heavily favored. So it looks like I'm going to be betting into Cleveland is my guess. But I've been a little bit disappointed in Boston. I think their offense isn't kind of clicking at the same rate right now. Franz and Paolo are generating pretty consistently good looks against this defense. And so it's a little bit concerning to me that this hasn't been as in control as I thought it would be against Orlando.
Yeah, they're getting, like you said, they've got like the worst spacing in the NBA, and they're still getting like enough pretty good looks there. So yeah, I'm with you. I did want to shout out Al Horford. 5 blocks. So actually, I forgot. I wanted to shout out Aaron Nesmith too. That block, and that reminded me of when Aaron Nesmith got blocked by Anthony Edwards. If you remember that one, Anthony, like that was such a great block. But yeah, Al Horford was really good. He's been fantastic with his defense, both on and off the ball. So yeah, pretty impressive stuff from Horford. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm probably gonna be thinking Cavs there. So yeah, with the Cavs, just to kind of wrap them up, I don't have much to say. I think they're going to sweep them. Really, really sharp adjustment from the Cavs to basically double team and take Tyler Hero out of the game there. But yeah, any thoughts from you on if the Cavs? I hear you typing away. I'll try to buy some more time here on the Cavs. Just kind of just taking away Hero, getting their just getting all the shots they wanted. Even without Darius Garland aggravated his toe. Was out. He might miss this one again today. But yeah, just the Cavs offense and getting output from Ty Jerome. We saw DeAndre Hunter, the flukiest of fluke game ones. Him just not playing enough. So yeah, they've got enough depth with Jerome, with Hunter. Sam Merrill had a bad game. Jared Allen, just oh my God, Jared Allen's playing Khalil Ware off the court. We'll see if he even starts tonight. But yeah, thoughts on the Cavs, and then we can kind of wrap up here.
I just think it's impressive against an Eric Spoelstra led defense that has defenders on the floor, right? With Bam Adebayo, Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell. Those guys are all defenders, right? That like in the first 3 games, Cleveland has looked like they can get any shot they want at any point in time. It doesn't look like any of this is hard for them. And so that to me is impressive in the sense that we've given Eric Spoelstra in Miami and Bam Adebayo so much credit over the years defensively about how they're able to scheme and make things tough on opponents in the playoffs. And it just hasn't felt that way for Cleveland. Everything's felt very comfortable. So, I'm I'm just really impressed with what Cleveland's done so far. And generally, like, I think they're shooting 43% from three in the series. Everybody's kind of playing well. Jared Allen's been dominant over Khalil Blair. I feel like when Jared Allen is dominant, Cleveland's really tough to beat, like really, really, really tough to beat. And he's been great so far in the playoffs. Strus kind of came alive finally in game 3 there for them in a revenge spot back in Miami. Yeah, they're
Those
very
things
deep.
are correlated. The Strus Allen 2-man game has been great.
Yeah. So like I've been as impressed as I could be with Cleveland, like taking care of business. It was a letdown spot in game 3 going back to Miami. I don't know if like Garland and Hero, the interaction back and forth kind of lit a fuse, but they came out and dominated from the jump in that one. Like Miami was down 15 pretty early in the first quarter, and Cleveland cruised. So yeah, Cleveland's very impressive so far.
Yeah, shout out Kenny Atkinson, man. I mean, pushing the right buttons, kind of keeping stuff in his back pocket, changing his, which kind of comes full circle. You know, the Lakers had nobody to use, and now out of nowhere they put Dean Wade out there when they really cut his minutes down. They went to like a switch heavier scheme that Dean Wade was kind of spearheading with the way he left on the ball and was able to challenge shots. They just got so many cards to play, and they're so potent in so many areas. Their rim defense is fantastic, and they control pace. And they've got some defenders to throw at you, and they've got a lot of schemes that they run. So yeah, they're legit. Like you said, I'm kind of with you. Like I don't want to really bet the Cavs, but if the market's gonna, like we talked about it, the open round 1, the Celtics were like minus 10,000, and the Cavs were minus 1,800, as were the Thunder.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a bad mispricing. So yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think that I'll probably be betting on the Cavs. Assuming we get there, I don't think we're going to.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get like Cavs like plus 130, plus 140 or something based on the way the market's been. And I'm just gonna be like, I think it'll be wider. It might be wider, but I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I think the Cavs are going to be very impressive this round. We'll see how they are against Indiana. Like maybe Boston, who's had the Knicks number, maybe they look a little bit more impressive there. But if we get like, I think minimum we're going to get plus 130, plus 140 on Cleveland, and with home court advantage and the way these two teams have played this year, I'm just going to be like, okay, I guess I'm taking that because I'm not betting against that. Maybe I no bet it, but like,
yeah,
I think it should be more like, you know, Boston minus 120, Cleveland plus 100 type situation. But I don't think we're going to get that.
Yeah, I'm with you. So we know that's kind of the one of the teams coming out of the East. But just to kind of wrap up the West, who do you think's the biggest threat to the Thunder? I think that's a really, 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 really tough question.
I think it's Golden State still. Yeah, I think it's Golden State still. I was thinking through the matchups with the Clippers, and I just think the matchups for OKC are so good with the Clippers on the whole. Mm-hmm. So I think any teams that play like heavy pick and roll, heavy like isolation, I think the Thunder are very comfortable there, and I think they have great matchups for the Clippers. Denver, I think, you know, Jokic is big enough that can, you know, maybe he can carry a whole series, but like you need depth against OKC. They're going to play fast. They're going to play physical. Mm-hmm. Like I just don't see that. Lakers, I think, would be gassed by then. Minnesota, I think Minnesota could provide some problems, but generally, like the ability to throw multiple defenders at Ant that have, you know, capable athleticism, I think is a challenge. So I would go Golden State. I think their motion style offense is much tougher for Oklahoma City's defense to kind of contain and get into. And I think Golden State's got some, you know, veteran leadership and capabilities, and since Jimmy's been back, I think they've been exceptional. So I would go Golden State right now as my biggest threat to OKC.
Yeah, I'd go. I think it sounds like same order. I think they're probably the favorite. I kind of lean Denver next, just because the Joker problem I think presents a bigger one than the other teams you mentioned too. But yeah, definitely gonna be interesting. And it seems like the Warriors are probably getting through faster, which is nice there. So all right, anything else we could get out of here?
As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Consider leaving a rating and review if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify to help circulate this podcast forward. You can check us out on our YouTube channel, Established Run NBA, over on YouTube as well, where you can see the video version of this podcast and other podcasts as well. And if you're interested in checking out any of our premium content during this NBA playoffs, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-NBA for more details on our premium product offerings.
All right, that'll do it. We'll be back on Thursday to talk what will certainly be a couple series wrapped up. 4 game 4s with three. It's game 5s. I can't talk to wrap it up, but potentially 4 series wrapping up on Tuesday. So we'll talk to you guys then. Appreciate you. Catch you next time.